I almost turned around before I even reached the restaurant. My work shirt had dried plaster on one sleeve, my boots were dusty, and my hands still smelled like copper wire no matter how hard I'd scrubbed them in the gas station sink. I was 20 minutes late, tired enough to forget my own name. And the only reason I was there at all was because my best friend, Drew, had spent 3 days telling me I needed to stop acting like a divorced uncle at 29. She's cool, he'd said. Just show up, Connor. So I showed up. The place was one of those dim restaurants with tiny lamps on every table and menus that didn't list prices where normal people expected them. I paused inside the door, looking for a woman named Jenna Whitaker. Drew had shown me one photo. Dark hair, sharp eyes, pretty in a way that made her look like she didn't waste words. I spotted her in the back corner. But she wasn't waiting with a drink, checking her phone, or glancing toward the door like someone wondering if her date had ditched her. She was sitting straight-backed at a corner table while a man in a gray suit leaned toward her with a folder open between them. He looked polished from 10 feet away. Expensive watch, clean haircut, calm smile. The kind of guy who probably said everything like he was giving you a favor. Jenna didn't look charmed. She had one hand around a water glass and the other flat on the table beside the folder. Her mouth was set tight. Not angry exactly. More like she was holding anger in place because she didn't want him to see it move. I should have walked over and introduced myself. Instead, I stopped near the host's stand because the man said, "You're already behind schedule, Jenna. Missing permits, contractor issues, supplier delays. At some point, the bank is going to ask whether you understand what you bought." That got my attention. Jenna's eyes didn't leave his face. "The permits are not missing. They were resubmitted because your complaint held them up." "My complaint?" He gave a soft laugh. "I'm not the city. No. You just seem to hear about every problem before I do." He slid one page toward her. "This is an updated repair estimate from a third-party consultant. The numbers are not friendly. I'm giving you a clean way out before this becomes worse." I stepped closer without really deciding to. The page was upside down from where I stood, but I could still catch enough. Structural reinforcement. Electrical correction. Emergency framing. Numbers beside each line that made my eyebrows pull together. I spent my days inside half-finished buildings. I knew what framing cost. I knew what service upgrades cost. I knew when someone was padding a number so hard it stopped looking like a mistake. Jenna pushed the page back. "I told you before. I'm not selling Riverside." The man's smile thinned. "You're emotionally attached to a bad investment." That was where I moved. I came up beside the table and cleared my throat. "Sorry I'm late." Jenna looked up at me, and for 1 second I saw confusion flash across her face. Then she understood. Her blind date had arrived wearing a faded contractor shirt and looking like he had crawled out of a ceiling panel. The man turned slowly. "Can we help you?" "I'm Connor," I said, looking at Jenna first. "Drew's friend." Her eyes moved over my shirt, my boots, my tired face. Then she nodded once. "Jenna." The man in the suit shut the folder halfway. "This is a private business discussion." "Sounded like construction," I said. "That's usually not private once the numbers get stupid." His eyes cooled. "Excuse me." I pointed at the page. "That line for temporary bracing. That's not a real number unless somebody's rebuilding half the floor. And that electrical correction line? Too vague. Nobody prices it like that unless they don't want you asking what's actually included." Jenna didn't smile, but something in her face shifted. The man looked me over like I was a tool left in the wrong room. "And you are?" "Electrician. Small renovation contractor." "Then you understand how quickly old buildings become expensive." "Sure," I said. "But I also understand when somebody writes an estimate to scare the owner." The table went quiet. Jenna's fingers tightened around the water glass. The man stood, buttoning his suit jacket with slow, careful movements. "Jenna," he said, ignoring me now, "you're making this harder than it needs to be. My offer won't stay open forever." "Good," she said. "Then I won't have to keep hearing about it." His jaw moved once. He gathered the folder, but he left one sheet behind like he wanted her to stare at it after he was gone. Then he walked past me, close enough to bump my shoulder, though he had plenty of room. I watched him leave. Jenna exhaled through her nose and looked down at the table. For a few seconds neither of us said anything. Then I said, "That was a weird start to dinner." She gave one short laugh, but it had no humor in it. "You have no idea. We didn't stay inside." She said she couldn't sit there anymore, and honestly, neither could I. We walked out under the restaurant awning, where the sidewalk shone from earlier rain and cars hissed past the curb. That was Lawrence Bell, she said. He's been trying to buy my building for months. Riverside. She looked at me. You know it. I've driven past it. Old brick place near the river. Tall windows. Used to have a print shop sign. That's the one. Her voice changed when she said it. Not softer exactly. Just more real. I bought it after my divorce. I'm turning it into studio space. Small offices, workshops, maybe a cafe corner if the budget survives. That sounds good. It is good. She looked away toward the street. Or it was. Every time we make progress, something goes wrong. Deliveries don't show. Permits get questioned. Work that was fine on Friday looks wrong on Monday. My contractor quit 2 weeks ago because he said the project had too much noise around it. I leaned back against the brick wall, and Lawrence shows up with an offer. Every time. I looked at the folded sheet still in her hand. Those numbers were off. I thought so, she said. But thinking and proving are different things. That was the first moment she looked tired. Not weak. Just tired from standing alone too long. She reached into her bag, pulled out a pen, and wrote an address on the back of a receipt. Then she handed it to me. Come tomorrow morning, she said. Walk the building. Tell me the truth. If it's ugly, say it's ugly. I don't need comfort. I took the receipt. I don't really do comfort. Good. A car rolled by slow, headlights washing over us. She glanced toward the restaurant door, then back at me. And Connor. Yeah. Don't help me because this was supposed to be a date. I looked down at the address in my hand, then back at her. I'm helping because that estimate was nonsense. For the first time all night, Jenna almost smiled. Then she turned and walked toward the parking lot, leaving me under the streetlight with Riverside's address on a wrinkled receipt and the strange feeling that my blind date had just turned into something a lot bigger than dinner. I got to Riverside before 8 the next morning with a coffee in one hand and a flashlight in the other. In daylight, the building looked rougher than I remembered from driving past it. 3 stories of old brick, tall windows dusty from the inside, faded letters from the old print shop still showing above the main entrance. There was a chain-link fence around the side lot, a dumpster half full of broken plaster, and a stack of lumber under a blue tarp that had come loose at one corner. But it had bones. That was the first thing I noticed. Some old buildings look tired in a way that tells you they're done. Riverside didn't. It looked neglected, annoyed, and waiting for somebody stubborn enough to bring it back. Jenna pulled in 10 minutes after me in a dark green SUV. She got out wearing jeans, work boots, and a black jacket, carrying rolled blueprints under one arm and a notebook under the other. No restaurant dress. No careful date face. She looked like the owner. Morning, she said. Morning. She held up 2 coffees. I didn't know how you take it. I brought one. Then now you have 2. I took it anyway. Fair. She unlocked the front door, and the smell hit first. Dust, old wood, cold brick, and that damp smell buildings get when rain has been finding its way in for too long. Work lights hung from temporary cords. Plastic sheeting covered one wall. Someone had chalked measurements across the floor near the front windows. This front room is supposed to be shared studio space, Jenna said, stepping around a stack of drywall. Offices upstairs. Workshop in the back. Cafe corner there. She pointed like she could already see it. I could too, sort of. Not finished, but possible. I started with the obvious stuff. A few pieces of framing were sloppy. Some wiring had been run in a way I didn't like. A junction box was hanging open near the ceiling with no cover plate. None of that was good, but none of it shocked me either. Old buildings always had surprises, and rushed workers made dumb choices when they were tired. Then I got to the back stairwell. I crouched beside a support brace and ran my thumb over the hardware. Who installed this? Jenna came closer. My last crew, I think. Why? These aren't right. What do you mean? Wrong fasteners for this location. Too light. You use these on something temporary that doesn't matter much, not here. I pointed higher. And see that? That washer's barely catching. Her face tightened. Is it unsafe? Not falling down right this second. But it needs to be corrected before anybody loads weight above it. She opened her notebook right away. Tell me exactly what to write. That surprised me a little. A lot of owners argue first. Jenna didn't. She wrote fast, asked for the location, took a photo, then asked if she should mark it with tape. Blue tape for review, I said. Red tape for do not touch. She pulled both from her bag. I looked at her. You came prepared. I'm tired of being the only person in the room without a tool. We kept moving. In the second floor hallway, I found water staining under a window, but the leak looked old. In one office, the subfloor had a soft spot that needed patching. In another, I found clean copper missing from a short electrical run, like somebody had removed just enough to create a problem, but not enough to look obvious from the doorway. Jenna stood behind me, arms folded. Could that happen during normal work? Not by accident. She didn't say anything. Down near the service entrance, I found the first thing that really bothered me. A security cable had been cut behind the conduit. Not ripped. Not chewed by a rat. Cut clean. I held it out with 2 fingers. You said your cameras keep going down? Yes. This is why. Her lips parted, then closed again. She took a photo. Then another. Then one wider, showing the doorway and the cable location. Good, I said. What? You're not just taking close-ups. You need context. I learned fast. I'm seeing that. By noon, we had blue tape all over the place and red tape in 3 spots. We ate lunch standing beside 2 sawhorses because every flat surface had plans, receipts, or dust on it. Jenna had brought turkey sandwiches wrapped in foil. I had a protein bar from the bottom of my truck console that looked like it had survived a long winter. She looked at it and said, "That thing legal?" "Barely." She handed me half her sandwich without making a speech about it. I took it without making one either. After lunch, she called Morris Klein, her attorney. He showed up an hour later in a tan coat that looked too clean for the building, holding a leather folder and trying not to step on anything sharp. Morris was older, narrow-faced, and calm in a way that made me think he charged by the sentence. Jenna walked him through what we'd found. I showed him the cut cable, the wrong fasteners, the missing material notes, and 2 invoices that listed structural lumber I couldn't find anywhere on site. Morris listened, took pictures of our pictures, and said, "From this point forward, assume every detail matters. Photos with timestamps. Delivery logs. Who entered. Who left. Every conversation saved. No guessing in writing. Facts only." Jenna nodded. "I can do that." He looked at me. "Can you document repairs before and after?" "Yeah." "Good. And do not accuse anyone directly unless we can prove it." I glanced at Jenna. "That part might be harder for some of us." She gave me a look. "I'm standing right here." "I know." Morris almost smiled. Almost. Before he left, he told Jenna to keep a daily log and told me to write plain notes a non-contractor could understand. After he was gone, I drove to a sporting goods store and bought a cheap trail camera with cash because the regular system was already useless. I mounted it high near the service entrance, tucked behind an old beam where it had a clean angle on the door and back stairwell. Jenna watched from below, holding the ladder. "You think they'll come back?" she asked. I think whoever cut that cable wasn't doing it for practice. That evening we stayed later than planned. I fixed the worst of the brace hardware while she labeled receipts at a folding table under a work light. Outside, traffic hummed near the river. Inside, the building creaked and settled around us. At one point she brought me coffee from the thermos she'd started carrying. "Still hot," she said. "You drink yours with almond milk, right?" She paused. "How did you know that?" "Restaurant. You asked the waiter." That was one sentence. I notice useful things. She looked at me a second longer than she needed to, then handed me the cup. Apparently, for the next few days, Riverside turned into a routine. I came early before my other jobs when I could, or after them when I couldn't. Jenna was there almost every time, hair tied back, notebook open, learning the building piece by piece. She stopped asking, "Is that bad?" and started asking, "Is that normal?" That was a better question. By Thursday, she could tell the difference between a real issue and a scare tactic. By Friday, she was calling suppliers herself with invoice numbers lined up in front of her. I started keeping extra almond milk in my cooler because pretending I didn't know her coffee order seemed stupid by then. Late Friday night, my phone buzzed while I was brushing drywall dust off my dashboard. Jenna had sent one message. Trail camera caught something. Under it was a grainy still image from 2:13 a.m. A figure in a hooded jacket stood inside Riverside near the back stairwell, one hand on the support brace I had repaired 2 days earlier. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then I called her. She answered on the first ring, voice low and tight. So I wasn't imagining it. "No," I said, already reaching for my keys. "You weren't." I got back to Riverside in 16 minutes. Jenna was already there. parked under the side light with her SUV still running. She stood by the fence in a raincoat, phone in one hand, keys in the other. The building behind her looked darker than usual, like the brick had soaked up every bit of night around it. I got out of my truck and held up a hand before she could speak. "You went inside?" "No," she said. "I waited." "Good. I'm not helpless, Connor." "I didn't say you were. I just like it when people don't walk into dark buildings after a camera catches somebody messing with support hardware." She looked annoyed, but only for half a second. Then she handed me her phone. The trail camera had caught 6 images. Same hooded figure. Back door. Stairwell. Brace. Hand near the bolts. Then leaving. No clear face. Still, it was enough to make my stomach sit heavy. We went in together with work lights and flashlights. I checked the brace first. 2 washers had been backed off. Not much. Just enough that if somebody gave it another turn later, or if the floor above took a hard load, it could shift. Jenna stood beside me, filming while I talked through what I was seeing. South stairwell, temporary support brace. Previously repaired Wednesday afternoon. Current time Friday, 10:42 p.m. 2 fasteners loosened after repair. No visible sign of normal movement. Threads are clean. This was done by hand, or with a small tool. My voice sounded flat in the empty building. Jenna lowered the phone when I finished. "They came back because we fixed it. Looks that way." She stared at the brace, jaw tight. "Lawrence keeps saying the building is too much for me. Then he sends someone to make it true. We don't know it's him yet." She looked at me. I sighed. "I know. Morris would say it." "Morris is not here." "No, but his billable ghost is." That got half a smile out of her, and right then I realized I'd been trying for it. The next morning, Morris came by with coffee and a face that said he had not slept much either. He watched the footage twice, then asked Jenna to email him the original files without trimming anything. After that, he called someone at a warehouse while standing in the front room beside a stack of insulation. Jenna and I kept working while he talked. By noon, Morris had a name for the supplier contact. By late afternoon, Jenna had a timeline taped to the wall. Missing delivery, permit complaint, camera outage, bad invoice, brace issue, another complaint, camera footage. She wrote everything in black marker, neat and sharp, like if the facts were straight enough. Nobody could bend them anymore. Monday morning brought the next move. A city inspector showed up at 9:20 with a clipboard and an expression that told me he expected a mess. "Anonymous safety complaint," he said. Jenna didn't flinch. Of course. I thought she might get sharp with him, but she didn't. She opened her binder on a folding table like she had been waiting all week. "Permits are here," she said. "Repair notes here. Temporary support ratings here. Photos before and after correction are in this section. Connor Hayes is the contractor documenting the site conditions." The inspector glanced at me. "You licensed?" "For electrical, yes. General renovation work under my company. Structural corrections are being reviewed before final." He looked around. "Walk me through it." So I did. I showed him the stairwell brace, the red-tagged areas, the wiring we had shut off, the temporary lighting, the taped-off sections. Jenna followed with her phone and the binder, answering questions before I had to. She didn't pretend to know what she didn't, which helped more than trying to sound like an expert. After 40 minutes, the inspector closed his clipboard. "You've got work to do," he said. "But I don't see grounds to shut the site down." Jenna's shoulders dropped just a little. "Thank you," she said. When he left, she leaned both hands on the folding table and whispered, "I hate that he almost made me grateful for basic fairness." I stood across from her. Basic fairness is underrated. She looked up at me, tired and wired at the same time. "You always talk like that." "Like what?" "Like everything is a board you can cut to length. It works with boards." Before she could answer, the back door rattled. A man stepped in wearing a dark jacket and shiny shoes that did not belong anywhere near an active job site. I recognized him from the restaurant, standing behind Lawrence near the door when he left. Not the main guy. One of those quiet men who looked like they were paid to agree. "Site standards review," he said, holding up no badge, no card, nothing. Mr. Bell asked. "Out," I said. His eyes moved to me. "I'm not talking to you." Jenna stepped beside me, not behind me. "Then talk to me. This is my building. You're not authorized to be here." He smiled like she was being difficult. "Ms. Whitaker, we're only trying to avoid more trouble for you." "No," she said. "You're trying to make trouble and then sell me relief." The man's smile faded. I pointed toward the door. Sidewalk is that way. He looked between us, then backed out with his phone already in his hand. For the rest of the day, Jenna moved like something had clicked into place.